It's 10:34 and you are listening to James O'Brien on LBC. We're just wondering what yesterday's press conference was supposed to achieve. I don't know how much of it you saw. If you're just joining us, shall I give you a recap? Do you want to just hear about a minute of what went on yesterday as some former friends and associates of the terrorist formerly known as Jihadi John were invited to share their thoughts and memories? I mean, to be fair, I always try to be fair, they did condemn his actions and condemn his crimes, but quite what this element of the exchange was supposed to achieve is beyond me.
He was such a beautiful young man. You might be surprised to know that the Muhammad that I knew was extremely kind, extremely gentle, extremely soft-spoken, was the most humble young person that I knew. You know, we're going to release all the emails that we exchanged with one another. We received consent from the family to do so. And what you'll see when you read those emails is somebody who, despite going through great difficulties in his personal life, he belittled that difficulty in the sense that he would write to me things like, I know you're dealing with very, very big cases, important cases, where there's human rights catastrophes taking place. But if you've even got a small amount of time, even if you've got a little bit of time just to work on my situation, I would really appreciate it. This is the kind of person that we're talking about. The kind of person who would turn up at Cage's offices with some posh baklava, just because he said, I was thinking about you guys, you've been doing a little bit of work for me, and I just wanted to say thank you. This is the kind of person that we're talking about.
24 minutes after 11, second caller we took this morning. Mohammed went to primary school with Jihadi John, or Mohammed Emwazi, as we now know him to be called. And it was the second Mohammed, the one that rang in, not the one that spent the best part of last summer chopping people's heads off, that prompted James, I won't tell you what his surname is, you won't believe me, prompted James to tweet, "Your caller has made me smile a bit, James. He's an honour to British Muslims and to the UK. He spoke a lot of sense, and he is the reason why we in Britain should be proud to have so many cultures and faiths within the country." Well, you're preaching to the converted with me, but some people will be very keen to believe that a murderous thug is somehow representative of everybody who worships under this Islamic faith. And it's pointless. It's getting worse, not better. These attempts to point out the existence of people like Jihadi John shows you what a bad person looks like. The existence of apologists and appeasers like these Cage characters show you what apologists and appeasers look like. And they don't look like people who ring in to say, or who come on the radio to say, why on earth would you take the KKK as proof of what all Christians are like? Or why on earth would you take Anders Behring Breivik as proof of what all white far-right followers would like to do, while ostensibly describing themselves as Christian? Let's go to Asghar next in Ilford. Asghar, what would you like to say?
I'd like to help. I'm not really sure why Cage is getting such bad press. They've made a press conference trying to tackle the root causes of terrorism and why this particular chap they feel may have been drawn to terrorism, and they seem to be getting a hard time for it. They're doing the right thing. They're standing out and saying this is what we need to look at. Surely we should be applauding them, not gunning them down.
What is it you admire?
I admire the fact that they've come out and said, look, at the end of the day, they don't have to work on anything. They could go and have enjoyable lives like the rest of us. But what they've done is they've worked on terrorist cases. And
No. About the press conference yesterday, what was the point at which you found yourself going, hell yeah, come on, get in, I'm with you, I'm Team Cage?
No, they haven't defended this guy. What they've said is that this is how he was. What changed him? What made him turn into something else? That's analysis. And what I find strange...
Why is that more relevant than Mohammed, my caller, who said he bumped his head on a goalpost when he was 10? Why is that more relevant than that? They wouldn't spend an hour pointing cameras at Mohammed, would they?
It's far more relevant.
Why?
And I'll tell you why. All through any terrorist case at all that occurs, especially with Muslims, what they do is they say, what university did he go to? What hate preacher did he speak to? What mosque did he attend? But as soon as you say, well, it's something to do with the government or government policy or the security agencies, oh no, he's just mad.
Okay, just map for me then. Map for me, if you would, the journey from MI5 intervention to chopping off with a dirty knife the heads of aid workers who travelled to Syria to help Muslims. Just explain that to me if you could,
okay.
because Cage didn't really do a good job as far as I'm concerned yesterday, but you're in the fan club, so help me out.
And I'm not in a fan club. I'm in a fan club of Cage, no doubt. I'm not in a fan club of...
No, I meant the Cage fan club. So talk me through getting your collar felt by MI5.
Cage, well, I'm just clarifying it because you called Cage apologists and I don't know, sympathisers, whatever the words were, and I'm here to defend them and defend myself. If you're going to point a few fingers at me, right? So here it is, and it's there's no easy mapping, but there's root causes.
Well, the sooner you start, the better.
Okay, fine. First, foreign policy. Our foreign policy...
No, mate, I know what the foreign policy is. I want to understand how it turns you into someone who hacks off the head of an aid worker.
James, you've asked me, and I'm going to explain. If you don't want to, you shouldn't have asked me.
All right, foreign policy explains Alan Henning's head being removed how?
Foreign policy. Unhinged guy who then...
Unhinged? I thought he was beautiful.
Well, he seemed to be a nice guy, but he's clearly unhinged at some point.
Oh, a nice unhinged guy. Again, foreign policy, Alan Henning getting his head chopped off. Just help me.
Well, Cage were the people that actually campaigned day and night to stop Henning being his head chopped off. You haven't thanked them for that, have you? You're quick enough to condemn them, but you didn't even point to the fact that they worked day and night to stop that happening.
Do you know every single person in this country wanted Alan Henning's life to be saved? I haven't thanked all of them either. But you're trying to distract. You're trying to distract from that wonderful mission you were on to explain to me how British foreign policy explains why Alan Henning had his head hacked off.
Fine, I will. As I said, they work day and night, so don't accuse them of anything to do with Alan Henning. They work. Everyone else might have thought it.
Final chance. How does British foreign policy explain Alan Henning's family having to watch him having his head hacked off by a butcher with a dirty knife?
I'm not trying to justify it. I'm trying to say that there are factors, just like other people would say.
Give me the factors. Explain it.
Okay, fine. Then MI5 get involved. What they do is they...
No. Foreign policy. That was your first thing. Foreign policy explains how he's done what he's done. Tell me how.
No. Foreign policy radicalises people. It
Tell me how.
And murders millions of Muslims around the world, from Palestine to Pakistan.
Islamic State have murdered more Muslims than any British soldier in the history of humanity.
Incorrect, actually.
Not incorrect.
Factually, it is correct. If you go back to colonial times, Churchill...
Colonial times has nothing to do with modern foreign policy. Try again.
It has absolutely everything to do with foreign policy. Just because you want to draw the line in 9/11 and say that's what history started...
Never mentioned it.
Books and says and go back to the time where we colonised the Muslim world, starved 3 million Muslims alone in Bengal, right? And here you are talking about ISIS.
Oh, okay. So because of historical colonial... No, hang on a minute. I want to be clear that I understand the nonsense that you're spouting. Because of historical foreign policy, Alan Henning, who travelled to Syria to help Muslim refugees, had to get his head chopped off.
It seems like what you're doing is you're loading a question without wanting to really analyse something. You've got a preconceived notion of Cage. You want to smear them. Well, go ahead, but don't. I'm calling and I'm trying to explain to you.
Well, try harder. Foreign policy removed Alan Henning's head. How?
Allow me to finish.
Go on then.
Fine, okay. So foreign policy murdered millions of people around the world. There is a community in the history of this world that will be murdered like that have not taken to violence, whether it's black people, whether it's white people, or whether it's Chinese people. Then, from that radicalisation process that has been going on, right, what happens is that people like this particular chap start to say, that's wrong, that's evil, I've got to do something about it. He's at a juncture.
Yes, and what he's done about it is chop off Alan Henning's head. So how?
Allow me to finish.
Well, I won't allow you to finish if you go off on a tangent. I don't want you to focus on a specific question. Well, I know you don't feel you, Anne. That's why you're lucky to have me here to help you. Now tell me, how does
thank you very much
historical foreign policy justify the removal of Alan Henning's head?
No, don't twist words. No one's saying justify. I've never justified it. Don't try to claim I have. I'm saying it's an unjustifiable act, but I'm trying to explain why it occurs, just like you would, or any analyst.
Well, get on with it!
How do we stop it? Well, okay, I will. The second point is MI5 now. We're going to jump forward in history, jump forward to this radicalised man. MI5 get involved with this chappie for whatever reason. What they do...
What do you mean for whatever reason?
Because they feel he's radical in some way.
Oh, it's just a feeling, is it?
Okay, they've had some evidence. They haven't charged him with a single thing, have they? So they haven't got lots of evidence, have they? They've got any evidence that allows him to go in front of a court, have they?
Well, he hasn't been charged with anything, so why would he be in front of a court? That's what the security services do. They keep an eye on people.
Well, that's fine. That's what they should do. That's their job.
So it's not that, then, that led to Alan Henning having his head chopped off. What was it?
Their job isn't to call his wife up and say, don't marry this guy, since he hasn't been charged, because he's a terrorist, thus destroying his future marriage. 2, then what they do is they destroy his career, because they don't allow him to go back to Kuwait, where he has a career as a computer programmer or something.
Listen, I appreciate you're getting frustrated at me interrupting you, but I'm doing it to remind you of what you're trying to explain. You're trying to explain to me how British foreign policy, I presumed we were talking about foreign policy that was framed by, I don't know, people who are still alive, but I accept that you're talking about foreign policies that are enshrined by people who have been dead for 200 years. That's absolutely fine. You're supposed to be explaining how that, in the mind of this man, could have led to the beheading of Alan Henning.
It was the Second World War during Churchill's time, so it's not 200 years.
The colonising of Muslim lands?
You
can't even remember what your own words are, pal, so no wonder you're struggling with mine. Now let's have one more go. One more go.
Forgive me. You're trying to correct my history, and then you won't allow me to recorrect you. I mean, I appreciate you have the power because you're the radio show host, but what you're finding very difficult is to understand a simple point. This man did an evil act, and everyone else looks at every other cause and effect. What is it? Is it a hate preacher? Is it a mosque? Is it, his mum? Is it something he's seen on the internet? But as soon as you talk about the security services, people like you say, you're justifying it. Stop covering for the government. Stop covering for the security.
He was a beautiful young man who made lovely baklava. He was a beautiful young man who made lovely baklava.
You can continue to be facetious. So you're trying to.
I'm not being facetious. I'm quoting you the press conference that we are discussing.
Yes, and what context were they saying it in? They were saying
he was a beautiful young man who used to make lovely baklava. Asghar Bukhari, is it?
Yeah, it is, yes.
The member of the Muslim Public Affairs Committee?
Correct.
Okay, you could have mentioned that to the producer before you came on, but I accept that you didn't want to. Here's the point. I gave you several chances to explain to me what possible link there could be between foreign policy and Alan Henning, who travelled to Syria to help Muslim children who have been orphaned and seen things you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy by Muslims in Islamic State. Jihadi John's friends could possibly be linked. And you've had 10 minutes to do it. And it's possible you could have failed more spectacularly, but I can't imagine how. Good day.
James O'Brien on LBC.